Well, it's that time again. It's time for another edition of Bedlam Buds. I am your Sooner correspondent, Boomer Sooner. My name is Ryan Welton, and this is my buddy Jeremy Cook.
Go Pokes, baby.
It was a winning weekend for the Sooners, and as we'll talk about in a bit, it's a could have been weekend for the Cowboys. But I did something this week, Jeremy, and I should note we are a day late with getting this posted thanks to our sponsor, Amazon Web Services. Actually, we're all dependent upon Amazon Web Services. It was down pretty much all day Monday. It wreaked havoc with businesses, with airlines, with flights, with point of sale systems, and Jeremy, it also wreaked havoc with
Schools.
yeah, pretty much. I'm teaching a class at OU, a class in digital literacy, and it was time for me to grade final assignments for an 8-week course, and I wasn't able to access. So it was a day at
Everybody's
forced
so if
vacation.
there's somebody that doesn't get their final graded.
Oh, and brother, I'm so behind, and the Thunder are playing tonight, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? It's I don't know. I got to get her done. It's what I got to do, and
Uh,
get her done. Get her done is what the Sooners did this weekend. And I have to admit, Jeremy, even though the listener or the viewer won't understand or know this, my thought process post South Carolina is different Tuesday night than it was late Saturday afternoon because I came away from that Sooners 26-7 win thinking defense great, offense blah. However, I have to give it up to quarterback John Mateer. Checking out the stats, and I did print off some numbers, did a little homework. I'm trying to up my game here. You can't manage what you don't measure, and if I prefer to talk about data. And I have to say, John Mateer's quarterback rating was 87.5, and compare that to Brandon. That's not bad at all. It's above average, in fact, 80 to 89 above average. 90 to 100 is considered fantastic, and anything 100 and above is just an amazing game. And compare that to Lenora Sellers and his QB rating of it didn't even print off, but I think it was like 29. It was not good. It was maybe it was 69. Either way, it was under 70. It was not a good QBR. Brandon Sorsby from Cincinnati had 89, and of course Cincinnati beat OSU 49-17. All that to just point out that maybe things are looking more up offensively than what we thought coming out of Texas. The running game was certainly better. Torrey Blaylock with 19 carries and 101 yards, and Xavier Robinson, I believe, pitched in 58. The running game looked good. The offense, I, as a Sooner fan, don't. It's not that I expect it to be like it was under Lincoln Riley or Mike Leach, but I want it to be sort of competent to be able to hold on to the ball, and have sustained long drives, and it was good enough.
Well, you have to also the offense has to do enough to allow the defense to rest. OU has a terrific defense this year. I mean, top of the line defense. And the offense has to do enough. And that's what they did. They kind of controlled the flow of the game. That running game did establish very well and allowed them to do, some of the things that you want to do as an offense, like you just mentioned, have a long drive, control the clock, and give that defense enough rest to where South Carolina really couldn't do a lot against them.
That's right, and, as much as John Mateer can say his hand's not bothering him, but the Sooners didn't throw deep a whole bunch. He's clearly bothered by something, I mean, because he's not that inaccurate on longer passes normally or didn't show that in the first games, so I'm just leaning toward him still being bothered with the grip or something to where he's throwing the ball far downfield, and I think that will be necessary, Jeremy, because we're playing Ole Miss this week. This is a game that theoretically could necessitate kind of a shootout. Ole Miss coming off a 43-35 loss that frankly Lane Kiffin and his Rebels, they should have won that game. And
100%.
they let it slip away. And Ole Miss is and by the way, I should acknowledge I like Lane Kiffin a lot. I think not that he would come to Oklahoma State. I like his style. I like his sense of humor. I think he's a changed guy over the years. Like he reeks of good dude energy these days, and I hope he stays at Ole Miss. I really like what he's doing with them. Um,
Isn't
but
there a rumor to him to Florida?
well, yeah, I mean, there. But I will tell you, Ole Miss has played a big role in his stability.
Mhm.
He got sober. There was a divorce, and his daughter Landry, who's a big TikToker, she goes to Ole Miss, and I think she'll keep him close to home. Although you would be tempted by Florida, you'd be tempted by Penn State, you might be tempted by any number of things, but it's just all that to say that I like him, but one tendency having followed him is that as long as he's been at Ole Miss, there is a tendency for one loss to turn into two. Like last year, they wanted to make the playoffs with three, losses, but there was one of those losses that shouldn't have been a loss. And Ole Miss messed around and almost lost to Washington State 2 weeks ago. I just wonder if their heads right with ball right now. Are they as locked in as they need to be? Whereas the Sooners are looking pretty locked in.
Well, what I would say is you don't want them to be locked in. You want them to kind of sputter around and let OU jump on a lead and use that defense to grind it out. So, as an OU guy, that's absolutely what you want. The fear with Mississippi State is if they lock in, if they do turn it on, they can score. They can move the ball up and down the field. They can score, and it's almost a strength on strength issue here, but I mean, it's going to make for terrific football. For a neutral, it's going to make for terrific football.
Well, and I will tell you, so yeah, OU's defense is great, but let's just look at the Michigan game back when we thought Michigan was good. The one play where Michigan scored a touchdown was a 75-yard run. Mississippi had one of those against Georgia, and I don't think we've seen an offense yet go up against the OU defense that is truly capable of long plays like that. Not Texas. Texas offense, we saw it against Kentucky. I saw somebody post to Facebook, you're not officially in the SEC until you grind out a 13-7 win in Lexington. And of course, that final was 16-13. Um, but I actually like Oklahoma's chances this weekend against Mississippi. I think their head is right. I think they needed a runaway win against a team that slobber knocked them last year, and they got a little bit of revenge, and they have some revenge to get against Mississippi. Now, I didn't get to watch the Mississippi game last year. We were in New Orleans preparing to watch Taylor Swift, but so it was a New Orleans weekend. But I listened to the game. The Sooners were in it the whole time, so I just if this turns into a situation where OU's gonna have to score 38 points, I don't know, but if they can hold Mississippi to 24 or under, I love the Sooners' chances this week.
Well, what I would say, and this, I mean, this might be just your general football, blah blah talk, but the way I look at that game is if OU is in that game at the start of the third quarter, then it's going to be a slobber knocker, and it's going to come down to the very end. If Ole Miss has a double-digit point lead, not necessarily a two-score lead, but a double-digit score lead, like a 10-point, 11-point, something like that, then I think they will stretch that out. But I think OU is going to be in this the whole time. I think it's going to be again, it's going to be a great football game. You got some strength on strength. You got some intrigue with Mateer. How is he going to continue to respond? OU might need to go over the top. Can he make those over the top throws? And then how well can the defense hold up under the barrage that Ole Miss is going to throw at him, plus hostile environment?
100%. Now, speaking of the third quarter and Mississippi, not having a big lead, Brent Venables, head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, has been big on talking about the middle eight. The middle eight was dreadful against Texas. It was fantastic against South Carolina. And the middle eight was actually good for the Oklahoma State Cowboys this past weekend. It was the start of the fourth quarter that led the Pokes awry. What did you see out of OSU's 49-17 loss? That, folks, if you didn't watch the game, it was much, much closer than that.
Well, first off, the crowd was terrific. I mean, everybody stayed until the middle of the fourth quarter when a bad thing happened. And that was exactly it. Oklahoma State, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Oklahoma State was down 11 points. I think it was 28-17. Cincinnati had the ball inside their own territory with a 3rd and 16. It was like the third, fourth, fifth play. Early in the fourth quarter. And it was 3rd and 16. If Oklahoma State stops that one play, the momentum and the crowd and everything is on Oklahoma State's side. And you have a shorter field because, of a punt. And then the offense was chucking along right there. Rodney Fields Jr. was having a terrific game, and in the third quarter, especially. And so you keep that momentum going, and then it's a 4-point game, and anything can happen. Unfortunately, Cincinnati hit a long pass play, I think it's dragged across the middle, hit a long pass play, went on to score, and everybody was still into it. Oklahoma State, the crowd was still going. Again, the team was still pumped, and they got the ball and were driving. I mean, driving, and then through like inside the 20, through an interception. The guy caught it right at the goal line, went 100 yards for a touchdown. And then it was over. The crowd started leaving, and you could see the total deflation of Oklahoma State, because even at that point, even though it was 3 scores, I mean, you were right in that game. You were driving up and down the field on a good Cincinnati defense. You had held Cincinnati scoreless in the third, but then that 3rd and 16 where they got, I think, 27, 28 yards, something like that, and then that interception for a 100-yard return. And unfortunately, a team that is as struggling as Oklahoma State is right now, you just can't recover from that. And then that's what cost it. But until that point, the stats were even, the score was fairly even. Cincinnati could not stop Rodney Fields Jr. He was running up and down the field, hitting just enough of those short intermediate pass plays, to keep them on their heels. It was just, I mean, again, when you're depleted at depth like Oklahoma State is now, you just can't make that up. But my goodness, that was a dagger. That was a dagger to the heart of all us Poke fans right there.
Rodney Fields Jr. had 163 yards on 21 carries, averaged 7.8 yards every time he touched the ball.
I'd take that every game. I would take that every game.
It invokes the names of greats: Ollie Gordon, Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders. I mean, it's just,
Gerald Hudson. I mean, go right here.
I mean, Ernest Alexander. We just keep going. Yeah, we'll go way back. It was a very good game for Rodney Fields Jr., and I remember when that 100-yard interception play happened. I believe the Alabama 100-yard interception return for a touchdown happened right before. And I just had a thought, random thought, Jeremy. But offenses, when they get up to the 2, if you're going to have man coverage on either one of the edges, that's one of the riskiest plays, because if it is intercepted, they gone. They have nothing but white space. So I can see why teams would throw it over the middle or someplace, because if you intercept it, at least it's in the end zone. At least you're going to have to get through a crowd of people. The fact that that game, though, was 28-17 at the start of the fourth quarter, with the chance to hold Cincinnati and a chance to cut that lead to 4, that's a step forward. That's progress. That's what progress is going to look like in 2025 for Oklahoma State.
Well, Ryan, you're exactly right. I mean, at this point, you can't look at wins and losses, because it doesn't matter. There's probably not another win left on the schedule. So you're exactly right on that, Ryan. It's a case where you have to take the positives. There are no moral victories, but there are small victories within, small battle victories within the larger war. And so, Rodney Fields having such a good game, the defense holding him to several punts, hitting some of those intermediate routes, getting deep. We had so many empty possessions deep inside Cincinnati territory that's what cost us. And so, I mean, that's exactly it. It's just those little things here or there, but that's the difference between a 6-win team and a 6-loss team. And that's what we saw on Saturday against Cincinnati.
It's going to be tough sledding this weekend. Heading to
Oh man. Going to Tech, and Tech is going to be angry. And let me tell you, there have been times that Oklahoma State and Tech have had some incredible games. And then there are some times that Oklahoma State has absolutely blown Tech out of the water. There was a 66-3, I think, in 2011, something like that. And
wasn't the "I'm a man, I'm 40" game after Tech?
I think it was. I think it was. I mean, I remember watching Crabtree catch passes over the middle, and matter of fact, dropped one in the end zone that would have won Tech a game at the very end. One of those, 60-point games back and forth. I mean, Oklahoma State and Tech have an interesting history anyway with the mascots. Tech claims that Oklahoma State has stolen the Spirit Rider and the Guns Up and all of these things. And we're like, no, sorry, boys, we've had that for a long time. And so there's a little bit of a rivalry, and this might develop into like a big rivalry inside the Big 12, with OU and Texas out. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just going to look for improvement. I'm not going to be concerned about the win. If that happens, then by golly, I'm popping champagne. I'm going to go buy some Cook's sparkling wine and pop some of that. But you got to look at the positive. You got to look at, can Rodney Fields Jr. continue his progress? What kind of quarterback play are we going to get? Will our receivers be more consistent? They were a little bit inconsistent against Cincinnati, dropping a couple of passes that would have been first downs. So you got to look for those type of things, to maintain sanity as a sports fan, but also, to look what can we take out of this to improve for the next game, and then for next year.
So Oklahoma State's a 38.5-point underdog at Texas Tech. I actually give me Oklahoma State. I mean, not to win, but to cover. Joey McGuire, like Lane Kiffin, I don't think we have the data on McGuire's body of work, but Texas Tech doesn't want one loss to turn into two. And as we've seen with teams like UCLA, a little bit of decent coaching, momentum, and good luck. You don't know what could happen on the road, especially in a rivalry situation. So Oklahoma State, both with big games in their own respects this weekend. And Jeremy, we're getting close to basketball season, and I have to admit, I haven't really done my homework on the Sooners, men or women. I know Reagan Beers is back, and so I think the women are going to be good. You never know with Porter Moser's teams. I am a Porter Moser stan. I actually really, really like him. I have had a couple of interactions with him kind of from afar. So I've seen how he operates, and I really just admire how he approaches his business. But they've struggled. The Sooners have struggled in men's basketball because they have to reinvent the team every year. The Sooners were good. They had Jeremiah Fears last year, and they had other guys too. But you know that a men's basketball team in college is struggling to put together a program when you can't remember anybody's name year to year. I'm like, I'm going to have to get reintroduced to them when they have their exhibition game against Wisconsin here in just, a few days. And then in a couple of weeks, they play Gonzaga at Gonzaga. That's going to be a real test. Toll-free call, spam. That's going to be a real test real quick to see if Oklahoma's going to be any good. What do the Cowboys and Cowgirls look like?
Well, the Cowgirls are start with the ladies. The Cowgirls are going to be pretty good. They're really tall. Unfortunately, I've heard some rumors about an injury or two of some of their more consistent players from last year. Now, they're not confirmed as far as I know yet, but I've heard some rumors of an injury or two, which will hurt, but it's not necessarily like of the top 5 players. Maybe a 4 or 5 in that range. But the Cowgirls are going to be tall this year, and made a deep run last year, made it to the NCAA tournament, hadn't done that in a long time, preseason top 25. So there's a lot of optimism about the Cowgirls this year. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be a little bit more athletic, but they're going to be a fun team to watch. And have the possibility to go deep into the Big 12 is a great conference for women's basketball, man. And so they're going to have a chance to do some damage within that conference. I actually believe, again, we're going to be taller, more athletic, and that really is going to help. Now, the men, here's the problem with the OSU men's basketball. Everybody thinks we're going to be a Final Four team now because in the exhibition that we had the other night, played Auburn. Auburn very recently was in the Final Four. And Oklahoma State beat Auburn in the state of Alabama. It wasn't necessarily, technically a neutral site game. But Ryan, it was not a neutral site game. It was just chock full of Auburn fans because, again, it's right there in their state, and I get it. But Oklahoma State found a way to win, showed a couple of cracks, wobbled a little bit, had a lead, kind of let it slip, came back. But they found a way to win. The past several years, Oklahoma State basketball would not have done that, minus Cade Cunningham year. Okay, they would not have done that. They found a way to win, and it was without some of the players they are expecting to either start or to contribute a great deal. So we were shorthanded, but found a way to win on the road against a very tough SEC opponent. That gives you a lot of optimism, okay? Steve Lutz, Coach Lutz, great dude, has put together a really good roster, and the momentum is really rolling in Oklahoma State basketball's favor. They've just gotten 2 verbal commits from the number 1 kid in Oklahoma, Montanati. Of course, he's a legacy, and then a couple of other really high 4-star kids, highly sought after. And so you have some momentum not only on the court but in recruiting to pay off down the road next year. But for this year, it's again, and Ryan, I think we're going to experience this. We're used to Bryant Reeves and Ryan Miner and those guys being there for 4 years and playing ball. That's not the game anymore. Everybody every year is going to have to learn a new roster because I think in basketball, the portal is going to be more relevant and prevalent than in any other sport, including football. But Oklahoma State has put together a really good roster, brought in a couple of Europeans and they can play. That you got your
You bet.
7-foot tall white guy that can shoot threes from 24 feet, right? Now I don't know if Oklahoma State has that, but they have some experience internationally. This team seems to really enjoy each other and really playing with each other. The coaching staff seems to be really enjoying that. That can make a difference. I'm optimistic and excited about Oklahoma State basketball this year. I'm not predicting a Sweet 16 or anything like that, but I think we're going to see improvement. I think we're going to see more depth. I think we're going to see some of that up and down style, but a little bit more controlled. And Roy, the transfer from Green Bay, thank you, Doug Gottlieb. Let me tell you, holy cow, that kid can play and he can shoot. And he was running point at the Auburn game because our point guard wasn't there. And so, I mean, that kid, he's electric and dynamite, and he's fun to watch. And there's going to be a lot of people enjoying/hating watching him play because he's going to be playing against them. But I'm optimistic and excited about Oklahoma State men's basketball this year, with it being tempered, understanding it's not necessarily a Final Four team, right? But it's a team that can place in the top half of one of the best, if not the best basketball conference, the Big 12, and make some noise in that Big 12 tournament and again, we're way early, but I'm not counting out an NCAA tournament bid. It's we gotta stay healthy and those type of things, but there's a lot of optimism about OSU basketball right now. Both
The,
men's and
trans-
women's.
the transfer portal has done a number of things to college basketball, and the women's tournament is structured in such a way where you have home teams the first couple of rounds, so you usually have the higher seeds. But if you remember last year, I don't know if it was all number 1 seeds, but it was pretty much the higher seed ruled the day. You didn't have a lot of upsets, and I will tell you, there are times when I like that. There are times when I don't. It depends whether your team is the higher seed or not. However, I don't think we're going to ever see again the days of a Duke or North Carolina year after year after year. You're going to see more of, hey, Florida won the championship this year, and then all of a sudden they're not in the tournament. It's happened before with your North Carolinas and your Villanovas and whatnot. And so for an Oklahoma State, you just hope that you get into the tournament, get a fortuitous seed, a fortuitous location, get a little bit of luck, and find yourself in the Sweet 16. Because Jeremy, you get in the Sweet 16, at that point, anything can happen. Let it fly. Just you never know. And I've always said when the Sooners win the men's basketball national championship that they should have won in 1988, but when they do, it's going to be a fluke. It's the same thing that I said about the Texas Rangers winning the World Series. And not that it was a fluke, it's just that it's going to happen when you least expect it.
It's lightning in a bottle. It's lightning in a
light
bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have ever have guessed that Butler would make 2 consecutive national finals?
Right, and now we understand, the genius of their coach, Brad Stevens, and what he's done, ultimately with the Boston Celtics over many, many, many years. But yeah, that was crazy, especially the second year. They ended up in the final, one year against Duke, but the next year, against Connecticut. But
I mean,
college basketball is a different beast now.
Absolutely, and I agree. You're going to see, and certainly with your still with your one and dones, like Kentucky might jump up there one year, and then if they don't replace all of those guys, then they could have a decided drop. Those type of things. You're looking for consistency, and you're right. Once you get to the tournament, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. But you got to get there and take your chances. And again, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun year in Oklahoma statewide for
Right.
basketball.
I completely agree. And by the way, I should know just to track back to college football is that is it possible? Because I think it is possible. I don't know that it's likely, but is it possible that we could start to see some of the Cinderellas that used to happen in college basketball in college football? There was somebody who posted to Facebook, here's the dream national championship, Indiana versus Vandy. Because the goal now in college football is like it has always been in college basketball, just make the tourney. Anything can happen at that point.
No, 100%, Ryan, 100% on that, and I hope that happens. I hope that happens. Who Michigan and Ohio State, your blue bloods have won it a whole bunch recently, and I'm tired of that. I want to see, now I'm not a huge Indiana fan or Vanderbilt fan by any
You
stretch.
want to see some chaos.
Right, I just want the chaos, and certainly since my team is 1 and 6, I just wanna see the chaos, I just wanna see the bloodbath, like last year, I wanted to see Arizona State beat Texas so bad, simply because
So
who the
close.
heck is Arizona State, right?
Right.
Plus, I just don't like Texas. You know
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, who does?
Right.
Besides the people who go there. Now, the opposite of chaos is the NBA, and I've got the NBA on over here. The Thunder have just gotten their championship rings, and you and I discussed this a little bit before we started recording. But I think it's not that the NBA is rigged. It's not. However, let's get real. There are 5 or 6 teams that can win a title. In the East, you've got Cleveland or the Knicks, and I think that's it. Jason Tatum is out for the entire year. Tyrese Halliburton is out for the entire year, so I don't think Boston or Indiana are going to contend. I don't think Detroit with Cade Cunningham is ready to make that step up, or Orlando with Powell Banchero. Um, on the other hand, in the West, you've got Oklahoma City looking for a repeat. You've got the Denver Nuggets, who took them to 7, who are always going to be great when you've got Aaron Murray and, of course, the horse-loving Jokic. So,
When you got a Joker man, when you got Joker playing, anything can happen, that dude's
oh
incredible.
my, he is incredible. And, for as much as or for as little as he appears to actually love playing basketball, it's even more incredible. But we talked about some other sleepers in the West.
Well, I mean, San Antonio. San Antonio is going to be a problem. I'm not sure if it will be this year, but I think they're going to jump up and surprise some people. I would not want to play San Antonio in a 5-game series, right? You got to, when you got Victor Wembanyama just by himself, and plus they got some pieces around him. They got some good draft picks. They got some pieces around him. They're going to be a problem. But this year, I think it's Houston. Houston is the tallest team in the league. Their starting 5 is the tallest team in the league. We'll see that tonight against the Thunder. The guy they have playing point guard because of the injury to Van Fleet, he's like 6'7", and he's their shortest guy on the floor. So they're going to be a problem. And then Minnesota could be there, but again, you got Denver. To me, Denver and Houston are the main threats to Oklahoma City in the West, and the only threats in the East are, exactly who you mentioned. You got the Knicks, who I would favor, and then, you got Timberwolves.
So, it all comes down to injuries and attrition. Does Jalen Williams, Jalen, not Jaylin? We've got 2 Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams, the one from Santa Clara, is not playing tonight. It's not. I'm not talking about tonight. I'm talking about the whole year. You're going to have to go into the playoffs at least moderately healthy.
Well, now remember this, Oklahoma City's draft pick last year did not play a single game last year because he got hurt. And so they have a number 1 draft pick added on to what they already had. Chet missed like 4 months last year and came back in time. And you're right, got healthy at the right time. Jalen Williams, was playing with a wrist issue that hardly anybody knew about. So that's what's scary about the Thunder is that They kept their entire roster and added another first-round draft pick. And so that, that was, I think, severely underrated coming out. And I mean, I think that they're going to be really dangerous if they can stay healthy. You know, again, we're 80 some odd games away, but if they can stay healthy, Thunder are going to be trouble.
It's a marathon. Good trouble. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You gotta stay healthy. Or were you referring to Topic?
Topic,
At one guard?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be really, really good, and, we were talking last week, about my prediction that Russell Westbrook might come back, and you said, "So, who you dropping?" And, of course, Westbrook signed with Sacramento, but that's the problem that the Thunder have. They have all of these great pieces and limited spots for rotations, and Coach Dagno was so good with his rotations last year. That was a complaint, like I know anything about coaching basketball. Jeremy, you and I played hoop it up. I just remember being in Dallas, and I was just, like, chunking it wherever. Of course, there were no rotations there, but I would sit back during the Scott Brooks years and the Billy Donovan years and say, "Oh, his rotations are all out of whack." Like, I know what I'm talking about, but the thing is, if you've got a good bench, you gotta use them in a right way and out of timeouts with good set plays. He pushed all the right buttons.
Well, Ryan, here's another thing that maybe didn't get talked enough is that you had players who were okay coming off the bench. You had players, and that's in the entire culture of Oklahoma City. Everybody wants to be a starter. Everybody wants to have their moment on the court. But you have guys buying in, going, "I want to be a part of this team. I understand I'm only going to get 15, 18 minutes a game, if that, but I have a role to play on a winning team, and I'm enjoying doing this. I'm getting better. I'm getting well coached. I love Oklahoma City, those type of things." And when you have those type of players that buy in their role of being the 6, 7, 8, 9 guy, that's how you win championships. And Oklahoma City had that last year, signed the same guys, and I don't see that changing. I think it's a really good thing.
It starts at the top, Clay Bennett, Sam Presti, but also the coach. And just a quick story. When Mark Daigneault was hired and nobody had really ever heard of him, he had coached the Blue or whatnot. A buddy of mine, he was a former photojournalist at KOCO, Jay Bokamp. He worked at the Thunder. I don't know if he was there at the time, but when we were all going, "Who?" He was like, "Best hire they could have done." He is a wonderful dude, a great guy. And, I'm a big believer in good dude energy, and I think that is proven to be the case. And,
I agree.
good karma begets good karma.
Oh, no, 100%, Ryan, I 100% agree with that. And again, that's part of that chemistry, that's part of that culture that so many talk about, and it starts at the very top with Presti and those guys, then it goes to the coach, then it goes to your leading players. I mean, look at SGA and Jay Will. I mean, look how they get along and all that. I mean, it's just a good culture, and culture wins. Culture can win.
Right. Culture and chemistry, and this is a segue into baseball. These are the best segues. This is our, what, 4th episode? My best segues so far. I keep working on the segues. However, my mother-in-law, we call her Baba. She is a huge Dodgers fan. It doesn't matter. They could be playing, Angels from Heaven. She's go Dodgers. And I guess she would be aunt-in-law, Becky. Totally into it, loves it. My wife, she loves the Dodgers, but not like they do. And one of the things is, my mother-in-law and I would talk baseball as we always do. It's, just another perk of being married to my wife is that her mother-in-law loves sports as much as I do. I would tell her back in the 2021 and 2022 what the Dodgers are missing is chemistry. They didn't have it. They needed the Jimmies and Joes. And last year, they brought on Tommy Edman. Freddie Freeman is one of those guys. But Kike Hernandez, there is no bigger chemistry guy, maybe in the history of the Dodgers, than Enrique Kike Hernandez. They have that going on top of brilliant starting pitching, on top of the reincarnation of Babe Ruth times 10 in Shohei Ohtani.
He's unfair. He's unfair.
He is a human cheat code.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the one organization that has had some success against the Dodgers on a very limited scale have been the Blue Jays. But still, do you see any scenario aside from extreme rust where the Dodgers don't win this series.
I don't. I mean, clearly, you make it to the World Series. You're the 1 seed. You are a very good baseball team. You are a very good baseball team. But the Dodgers, like we talked about some of these other sports, Ryan, the Dodgers have decided now is the time to play, right? And their top 4 pitchers are just they're all number 1 pitchers. And they are playing so well. They're pitching so well. They're playing as a unit, like you mentioned. And then you have the cheat code, Ohtani, who is just
Right.
out of his mind, playing so well that the Blue Jays struggled to get to the World Series. They had to scrap and fight, and the Dodgers have rolled through. My only concern is, are the Dodgers a little bit rusty because they've had, I think, 9 days off, or will have had 9 days off, and the Blue Jays will have basically just rolled into that series. But with that starting pitching that they have, and with the consistency of their hitting in this postseason, I honestly, I'm going to say the Dodgers in 5. I really
Right.
think that, I mean, if the Blue Jays can win game 1, I see the Dodgers taking 2 and maybe sweeping on out from there. The Dodgers are a machine right now. I don't like it, but you cannot deny that they put together a great squad. The luxury tax is doing its job. And they're spending the money in as they should, as well within the rules, and putting together this incredible roster, starting with pitching, then going to fielding, then going to hitting. And I just see the Dodgers just winning this outright. I really do.
Yeah. So there are people on social media, however they feel about the Dodgers. Some say that they're ruining baseball, and I think it's the exact opposite. They are doing exactly what every owner should be doing, and that is buying into their team. I've learned a lot about EPL from you and watching what you say on social media. And when you're talking about the Gunners and buying players, of course, that is European vernacular. In the States, we talk about signing them and whatnot. But that's the same deal. You, as an organization, you have a limited amount of funds, or if you want to go over a luxury tax, you're willing to pay the penalties. But you want to sign the best players possible to give your team and your fans a chance to experience that type of victory. And all the Dodgers have done, I would argue that it's not that they've spent the most, although I'm sure they have, although I think actually the Mets have spent the most. They've maximized, they've optimized their signings. They have signed the right people in the right spot. There's a business book called Good to Great. Jim Collins talk about getting the right people on the right seat in the bus. Dodgers have done it. And I agree with you. I think that Toronto and LA split the home series at Rogers Center. I think it's a great place to play for the one of the cleanest stadiums I've ever been to. My wife and I went there on our honeymoon, loved it. Smoked meat sandwich. If you're going to the World Series, smoked meat sandwich, get a Mill Street beer. Just fantastic.
For
But
all
I
our
think
for all our Blue Jay fans.
well, hey, I'll show you some of my Toronto gear. But and there's part of me that will be rooting for the Blue Jays a little bit. I'm not, I'm a Texas Ranger. It is what it is. And we could talk about the Rangers all day and what they failed to do the past couple of years to follow up their champion. They are a case study in what not to do that I hope the Thunder paid attention to. They rested on their laurels. But I think the minute that the Dodgers turn it back on, if they lose the game 1 and they win a game 2, heaven forbid Dodgers win game 1 and 2, this is gonna be over in 4. In fact, it's something I wanted to mention to you for any history buffs watching, and I get this, I know this from my mother-in-law and, actually just, double checking it myself, but the Dodgers have not clinched a World Series at home since 1965, not counting the 2020 World Series championship in Dallas. The pandemic, yeah, they were in the whites. But last year, Dodgers win in game 5. If you remember that just awful 5th inning for the Yankees, Dodgers won game 5 in New York. They won in 1988 in Oakland, swept that first game Kirk Gibson hits the home run. They actually had to hoist the trophy at the jail yard that was the Oakland Coliseum.
Coliseum.
Yeah, it's actually I kind of love that stadium. That's the story for another time. But then in '81 they won in New York, and then you have to go all the way back to 1965 for their previous win, I believe it was, and that was at home against the Minnesota Twins, I believe. The next year, by the way, is a pretty famous World Series because the Dodgers were supposed to destroy the Baltimore Orioles, but the Orioles swept them in 4. Maybe that's something that the Blue Jays fans should look into for a little bit of encouragement.
For some hope.
For some hope. So we got a lot going on sports wise, and we haven't even started to talk about hockey or wrestling. I need to get schooled in wrestling. We're going to do things one at a time here. So we've got college football, we got our hands full. College basketball starting. But if you're following us here on Bedlam Buds, and I hope you do, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Maybe follow us on TikTok. Right now, it is.
Comment. Tell us what you want us to talk about.
Oh my gosh, yes. Leave a hot sports opinion. Maybe say you want to be a guest and we'll bring a third person on periodically every once in a while. Maybe we'll roll screenless and not even vet you. Maybe we'll just bring you on just randomly. We've talked though about the possibility on weekends of maybe doing a post game episode, or maybe we could go live on TikTok or something and just either commiserate or celebrate one way or the other.
No, absolutely. And yeah, like, subscribe, again, hit that bell, leave a comment, and if you have something, college sports or even pro sports related you want us to talk about, just let us know. I mean, we want this to be interactive, and we should do that like once a month. Have a random fan gets to come on with us. We might have to do that 5-second delay, but
Right, right, right. You can say whatever you want. I mean, we'll take care of it in post.
it's the
However, we've gone for 40 minutes. I feel good about Mississippi, and all I want to see, and I think you want to see out of OSU, is progress.
Absolutely. You got to have progress. You can't look at the win right now. This is not that team. You got to look at progress. You got to look at the building blocks. You got to look at Fields going off again and those type of things and hold on to that hope. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for Ryan Welton, I'm the founder and curator of Oklahoma Memo, and we came up with this idea of Bedlam Buds because Bedlam really never dies. But until next time, Boomer Sooner.
And go Pokes.